my name is Athena Kablenyu. I'm a stand-up comedian, writer, and a podcaster, and a parent, which is fantastic, and I love it. But my toddler and my 8-week-old do lack something in the way of conversation. So to make up for that, I invite a friend round to keep my company. Yada, yada, yada. We know we're in a pandemic, no one can come round, but we're doing this all virtually, online. Ooh, modern technology and stuff. Well, not that modern, because you could do this 70 years ago, just with a phone. Anyway, I won't talk it down. It's still very impressive. So today, I'm thrilled, pleased as punch, to welcome to my podcast Becky Singh.
Hey, hello.
Hello, how's it going?
Very well, thank you. Actually, it's been
No, that's not the right answer. It's stress.
yeah.
Right,
Sorry,
we're stressed out.
yeah, right. So, oh God, very well, but stressed. How about that?
Yeah, that's on trend.
Well, I
That's
think
what we want.
my response is very well, and I give that response when people ask because at the moment I am trying very hard to bring any kind of optimism to our current situation. I mean, I had a sort of I'm doing a little bit of a moonlighting job. I've been working with local government and the NHS to manage COVID testing, and so it's weird. They've brought in quite a lot of people that would normally be doing project managing in TV and entertainment, and for a lot of us, there is not a great deal of that happening at the moment. So I've been doing that, and it's been hugely eye-opening.
So what have your eyes seen that you weren't aware of before?
Well, one, how flipping cushy my life is normally. When you start, like I'm up on Friday at 4:30 in the morning, and that's just seems horrendous, doesn't it? It seems horrendous, but that's actually a fair percentage of the population's everyday life, and that's and I think working in entertainment, you sometimes get. I mean, I've always said it, but we do have this kind of like, oh, dramatic life or death kind of moments where you're like, oh, it's also important, and this is so stressful, and of course it is. Not to belittle that, but yeah, there's a lot out there that's equally, if not more, stressful, and we're all very lucky when we're doing
We
our
are up
jobs.
till now. Had you always worked in entertainment?
Yeah, well, yes, actually. I mean,
Like Bruce Forsyth, you're a lifer.
I've done it. I started. I mean, even at school, I was working on stage productions, and then I sort of had a brief, I'd say a brief point where I tried to do other more sensible stuff, and then at 21, I ended up going into comedy. So yeah, pretty much my whole entire life.
That's really interesting, because I can relate strongly to what you said earlier about kind of real, quote unquote, real job people having a harder life than comedian people, because I had a real job, up until basically just over a year and a half ago. That section of work, which was dedicated to the day job, was just,
Mm.
oh my God, like exhausting. Like I reflect on it and I think, how could anyone be bothered to do this? And the commuting was what will really kill you, but also just the kind of the demands on your time, which are
Yeah,
just there was no flexibility. Now it's like someone wants a meeting, it goes in my diary when I'm free. If someone wants to schedule a recording, it goes in my diary when we're both free. But there's a rigidity to kind of day-to-day work that most people do that is draining, because you have to. It's like instead of working to live, it's like you live to work.
yeah. It's though conversely, I do find that there's something about, and I suppose it really depends on the job. I mean, I'm talking about at the moment, I'm sort of doing what's considered a frontline job, and it sits with me afterwards. But weirdly, my mind is a lot more free than it would be if I was doing an arts job, because that especially if you're trying to write and create, where that never leaves you. It's always humming in the back of your head, and you never feel like you've done enough work, and you never
Yeah,
feel like you're doing enough to it. Whereas I can, when I get home, I'm pretty exhausted, but I can let it go. Like,
I know what you mean. I used to switch off from my day job. I'd be like, get to a point where I'm like, I owe nothing more to this organization. Like, literally, I owe you nothing, like the song. Whereas with like comedy, it's like, I still owe you. I'm in debt to comedy. Like, I'm constantly trying to pay
well,
off some
because
imaginary debt.
Well, it's also that you can never do enough. It reminds me a bit of my first experience of being at university, where it was like, you just study as much as you can, and you're never really gonna do enough,
Well,
you
I'm
know.
sorry. What that's not my that's not I think that's not my recollection of university.
No.
Maybe the final year. Maybe the final year. I was sort of stressed out of it, but I didn't do that enough in the first year. I immensely, not immensely, but I definitely regret not being dedicated to
Yeah.
university in my first year and a half than I was towards the second half, because that's really the difference between the students who excel and the students who sort of do all right.
I
Um,
almost feel like, not that teenage should be forced, but it'd be great if people took a couple of years off to work and then went, "Okay, what do I wanna study?" That
Yeah, I think that's really rewarding, because 18 is a very early stage, especially now when we're living, touch wood, hopefully, we have incredibly long lives. It's not like you're going to be dead by 40, so get sort out yourself by 13. You've got like a long life ahead of you.
talking about lifespans, I was just listening to this podcast, which is absolutely fascinating, that, they were looking at prehistoric man, and actually his lifespan was around about 35. This is for women as well, though. So lifespan between 35 and 40. So there was a high infant mortality rate. They could tell from fossils and burial sites, and there was also significant people that reached an older age. And it was only until the 19th century that, and the early 19th century, the human lifespan was still 35 to
Wow, that
45
globally.
around the world.
Wow.
So, yeah, globally. So actually, it was hundreds, because they're talking about prehistoric. So before, even like early hominids were having this average lifespan that was the same as your great great grandmother in 1802 or whatever. And it's only been in this last 100 and so years. And so it must be 200 years now, but it's only been in this last couple of centuries that we've doubled our lifespan. And exactly what you're saying, we have a whole new conception of what youth is and what old
Wow,
age
you've just
is.
explained my knees. Like,
Like,
my knees weren't meant to live this long. It's like, why are they so
no, well,
creaky? Why
listen,
do they ache? Oh, that's why.
I remember writing something which was, should be dead by now, because it was a sitcom about, I mean, it could still be rewritten, but it was a sitcom about, there's a lot of us that are in our 40s and 50s that still feel like we've not really experienced our adulthood fully yet. It's
Oh,
very,
I've met those
yeah.
guys. Trust me. Yeah, I've met them. I know them
Yeah.
well. I know that
Yeah.
personality very well.
Yeah, well, definitely on Tinder, that's pretty much what you find. But, I feel a bit like that myself. I mean, I'm knocking on for 50, and I'm cutting about with pink hair and hanging out with people of all different ages, and I love it, and I still sometimes think, "Oh, I wanna try that next, and I wanna do this next."
I think
And
that's
I
something to embrace. I mean, I'm going to be 40 this year, and I think mainly partly because I've had this career change, so it feels like almost like a rebirth. I don't feel like I've
Mhm.
been in this job for like 20 years, and that, oh gosh, I need to do something. Like, it's almost like I've got an insurance policy against the midlife crisis, because like, just getting into creative industry, coming from quite a professional one, and only in the past sort of 18 months kind of making it work as a full-time thing, means that I can't really have a meltdown and throw away the baby with the bathwater and say, right,
Mhm.
now I've got to become a mountaineer. I've got to change my life moment.
Yeah.
I had that 8 years ago. So I feel okay about turning 40. Another reason is a lot of people I know are over 40. I've been to so many 40th birthday parties, and it's been a celebration. So I've been dying to have mine. I've been to some amazing 40th birthday parties, and I'm like, okay, cool. I can't wait to have mine. So it might be that I wake up on the day in floods of tears, but so far I'm feeling pretty positive about Scorpio season this year.
Oh, well,
Because
listen, it's still a long way off, but I really enjoyed my 40th.
what did you do for your
I
40th?
suppose me and a few friends, this sounds so, I've never done this before, but it sounds really tacky, but we went to Las Vegas, and,
That's not tacky. Oh no, people do that all the time. People go to Las Vegas for everything, right?
and honestly, though, I mean, it was a vastly different experience than if I'd gone there for my 21st or something like that, because we went there and everyone was going, "Oh, I bet you had a wild time," and blah, blah, blah. And we were like, "Well, the mob museum was really good, and actually, there's an alien museum there as well." And every night we'd have these massive intentions. We'd be like, "Yeah, we're gonna go out, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna stay out all night." And I'm the kind of person that would stay out till like 5 or 6 in the morning, but because we were doing loads of quite cultural, outdoorsy activities during the day, we'd be asleep by about 10, even on
Just
my
describe my
actual
perfect
birthday.
holiday.
Yeah, I
Honestly,
swear.
so I'm definitely turning 40 because I love going on holiday, exhausting myself during the day, just like soaking up wherever I'm at, like whatever
Yeah,
city I'm in, like the culture, the food, the walking. I love a walk. I love a hill. Oh, if I'm on holiday with you and I see a hill, you'll be like, "Where's Athena?" I'm just climbing a hill. I love a
well,
hill.
listen, it's about the view, isn't it? Because it's about
Absolutely.
overview, and my friend, used to go traveling with this friend of mine, Hilary, and she taught me about the joy of the open top tourist bus, and I was like, "Oh,
Oh,
come on, what? What is that about?" She goes, "No, do it every time you get somewhere. Force yourself to do a circuit of the town with the open top bus. You get to have a look at stuff and you kind of go, oh, that's interesting. Oh, okay." And a lot of the times you find out about things that you kind of didn't know existed, and you think, "Oh, I'll do that. Oh, I want to see that." And the big touristy stuff that you thought you were going to like, you look at it and go, "Oh, I've seen that now. Fine, don't need to do that." It's really it's such a I mean, I did an open top bus tour in Las Vegas as well and absolutely loved it.
I bet you did. Did you go out into the desert? Did you go to see Grand Canyon?
I went to yeah, we started off in Sedona actually. The hippie and me went there, and forced
So
everyone else to go, and
I've
it
never heard of that place. What is it?
Sedona's in it's in Arizona, so it's not far from the Nevada border, and it's actually not far from the Grand Canyon. So it's all that kind of redstone rock, yeah, and it's just this massive kind of it's just beautiful. It's similar kind of canyons, and it's meant to be. It's known as a bit of a hippie area. Like
Right.
it's got magical energy.
That's what deserts
Um,
are like. All deserts are hippie
I
areas. It's full of shamans and people burning stuff. It's Burning. I blame Burning Man Festival for these locations turning into really spiritual
Well,
places.
Sedona always was though. Like my auntie was out in Arizona, and I remember as a kid, we'd get sent this magazine called what was it called? Arizona Highways. That was it. And I remember as a kid living in Scotland and just fantasizing about these desert roads and just the space and the sunlight and everything just looked amazing. And I
It's
remember
almost lunar, the
it was
landscape.
it's incredible. Absolutely, it is, and I don't know. I guess for some people they saw bleakness, but I looked at it and I was like, I love this. Like we went to the Mojave Desert as well. Probably not pronounced that way.
Well, I've always said Mojave, but I don't know. I'm probably saying it wrong as well.
I'm
I've no
saying it
idea.
in like as if I'm an incredibly posh word. Mojave, the Mojave,
Mojave, yeah,
and
like how Nigella would say it.
yes, oh God, um, yeah. And I was there, and and everyone was like, "Oh, this is really bleak," and apparently this is the hottest place on earth. And I was like, "I love this
I
place."
would love it. I love extreme heat as well. I'm one of those people where I love humidity. My favorite thing, almost my favorite part of a holiday is getting off the plane and being
Oh,
smacked
that
with
the
that
wall
heat.
of heat. Yeah,
Oh,
like walking
yeah.
into an oven. Like,
I adore that feeling. I like humidity. It's a very odd. I've been told countless times this makes me a very odd person, probably a reptile. I don't know, but
but
it's something I really appreciate. I really appreciate sweating just by open your eyes, you're sweating.
actually, yeah,
I
no, do you
appreciate
know
that.
what? I in Florida, I felt that a lot
Oh
actually.
my god, Florida is just one big lizard
It
tank,
just oh,
and it
it's just
is literally because that's what it is. It's just full of reptiles. Yeah,
it
it
was
is
so
very hot.
incredibly intense. I mean, Trinidad was similar when you got closer to the jungle, but what I think I like all these extremes. Like at the moment, I'm having to like at one point doing this current job, I was doing it half indoors, half outdoors, 6 o'clock in the morning in the dark and it's -1 or whatever. And as the Scottish say, there's no such thing as bad weather. There's only the wrong clothes. Like if you've got the right clothing on, it's fine. And I like the extremes, but I think once you have to actually work in those temperatures, that's when it all becomes real. And it's like, no, this is not hot. This is not fun for me.
So I like the extremes, but only because
Mm.
I'm expecting them. When it's moderate or temperate, I can't be prepared for that.
No, do you know what? The kind of weather, this is such a British conversation, isn't it? But the kind of weather that I absolutely hate is when it's kind of just, in Scotland we call it dreich, just like grey, and it's gonna rain, but it's not raining, but it probably will rain, and like it's just, and
And
it
it's
feels
damp.
relentless. Because you can last in that state for like weeks, and I think, whereas a good brisk cold day, especially when it's sunny, that's beautiful. Right, love
Yeah,
it.
when it's
Yeah.
not too windy, definitely not wet, and
Mm.
bright. Brightness is the key.
That is it. But I've just found I've got these now 4,000 IU vitamin D tablets that I'm taking.
I've still
So
got leftover Pregnacare, so I'm taking those, but I think I need a higher hit of vitamin D
I'm gonna do
because
it.
it's
Do
not.
it.
I'm getting like my skin's going. I was looking at myself the other day, and I'm like, I'm turning sort of beige. Like,
I feel very white. There's a picture I took of myself, and everyone was like, "What filter is that?" And I was like, "Fatigue."
it's,
That's what it is.
it's the pandemic not left the house filter. And had to put on makeup the other day to record something, and I was like, this looks really funny. It's the wrong shade
Yeah,
now
yeah,
because
yeah.
I'm so pale. I'm not getting any sunlight at all, and I've been housebound. Well, I wasn't housebound. I wasn't shielding, but it was.
No.
I wasn't really inclined to leave the house when I was pregnant, and I couldn't be bothered, and I got a bit lazy, so I didn't leave the house for a huge amount, and
Oh, I didn't at all. I was working from home, and the only time I really got sun last year was a bit of good conservatory time, which I'm sure you must have had some of that though as
I
well.
have had, but during the winter, it's crazy. The summer last year was really good. I can't, apart from the pandemic, the weather was quite good. For about
Mm,
2 or 3 weeks, there were kind of bursts of sunshine and eating ice creams in the garden and whatever.
mm.
I know the weather must have been good because I had choc ices in the freezer. You know the weather's good when you've got choc ices in your freezer because you had to buy them to enjoy in good weather. But then it just went shit overnight, and it was like God was like, "Oh, you aren't really going to respect this pandemic, are you? Right? Let's put the sun away because
Well,
you're not respecting this pandemic." And conservatories for people who don't have the pleasure of owning one get quite cold
they get
in
freezing.
the winter. They're actually useless. They're not.
They're
They
so
literally serve no purpose outside of the months of June and July.
but mine, there is a window of about 5 hours at some point in May and another one in September where I can use the conservatory. And for the rest of the time, it's just a polar extreme. I can't.
It's yeah, and when it's hot, sometimes it gets extraordinarily hot, like your
So
tomato plant or something, and you just think, no, this is ridiculous. Like this is absolutely unacceptable. Um, so they're very odd things. Conservatories, like we have one. I have this joke that says I have a conservatory. It came with the man because it did. Didn't have one before, I'm grateful for it. We've got olive trees in ours right now that are
oh,
enjoying it.
nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh yeah. I've really lent into the middle class thing.
oh my
So it's
God,
really.
listen, the fact that I'm discussing my conservatory, the younger me would be horrified by that, absolutely disgusted by it. But
No, we're still young. Don't forget,
oh
because
yeah,
we're
yeah,
living
yeah,
till
yeah.
90 now, so we're still teenagers. Which actually, I meant to ask you this when you mentioned it. What are you going to do for your 50th? Do you have plans?
I don't know actually. I mean, it feels abstract because I mean it's still a couple of years off, so like I feel like I've got a little bit of time to
Oh, sorry.
get
Can
my
I
head.
react appropriately to finding out you're 48? Because this is
Oh no,
ridiculous.
I'm 46
You're
now. So when
46.
I
Oh, sorry,
say,
it's a couple years. Sorry. Well,
yeah,
that's still ridiculous.
when I
You're not
did you
46. Why are you lying to me? Why?
where you land, where you land. As they say, beige don't age, right?
It doesn't. Uh,
Well,
no,
it does. It just does, but it ages later, and then suddenly it happens overnight. That seems to be what happens. I'm waiting for that day. No, I mean, it's interesting. I do feel like I am part of a no. I'm not saying it's a new thing, but it's sort of new. I think and that was part of what I was writing in that sitcom. Should be dead by now, right? It was that almost because we live with the preconceptions of our parents and our grandparents of what life should be. I think my generation, especially, so not my mum's, but mine, and perhaps people just a little bit older than me, we kind of have tread a completely different path to the ones that our ancestors have. It was always you would get married, you would have kids, you'd probably get married in your 20s. That's what my parents' generation did. you would have kids in your 20s. You would probably have a career that it would start in your 20s and probably continue through to till retirement. And I'm part of a generation that just lots of us either didn't get married or won't get married or got married much later or didn't have kids, or left their marriages and stayed single for a long time and are moving from job to job. And in fact, it more so than the millennials, I think my sort of generation were the ones that started to realize that you could do a couple of things at once. You know, you could have this passion project that made a bit of money. Um, like even if it was just making jewelry and selling it on a market on Saturday morning, there was stuff you could
Etsy.
do.
You know what I mean? You can
Yes.
put you sell stuff on Etsy, sell stuff on eBay, become an entrepreneur. I would say I think I would articulate what you're explaining as this. The life that our parents had is actually much harder work than what we're doing now, which is whatever the hell we want. Like, I probably would have got married in my 20s and bought a house and done all these things a lot earlier. Oh, excuse me. There's a there's a situation. Okay, he's sorted now. If it wasn't so hard, but it's really hard to buy a house in your 20s. It's really hard to meet someone who wants to settle down in your 20s. It's really hard in
Well, I
their
think
20s.
it isn't. I mean, I was going to say it isn't. It isn't. But I think if that is the norm, if that's your norm, as it was in my parents' era, it was a norm for men. It was a norm for women, and you just did it. And
Yeah,
it was economically much more viable for a person to have a home, to get a mortgage in their 20s. That was, I mean, even when I got a mortgage, I got first approved for a mortgage when I was 21, and that was for a four-bedroom house, and I didn't end up going for it in
what
the end,
city
but
was this?
that was 1993. No, no,
Okay.
no, hang on,
Was that in
1995.
Scotland?
That was in Catford.
Wow. Yeah,
Four-bedroom
amazing.
Victorian house for 72 grand. That was and I didn't do it in the end because of jonglers. It's a long story, but fuck jonglers. Anyway, yes, it's quite incredible. Actually, do you know when you look at The Simpsons and there was a sociologist who was talking about the fact that The Simpsons has been a bit of a time capsule because when it first came out, and that's, you know, relatively not that long ago, in the 80s, it wasn't unfeasible for a man in America and middle America to have what we would imagine is a kind of like blue collar job, and for his partner not to be working, and for them to have this quite large house and
Yeah.
comfortable lifestyle.
Front garden,
Whereas,
back garden,
yeah,
car,
I
dog,
mean,
cat.
obviously that's still more possible in America than it is for us, but it's interesting that that's in no way the reality now. The
Oh, no.
reality
If
would
you work
be
for
that
Deliveroo or whatever, that's you're not sustaining that kind of lifestyle. You're
no,
more
and
or less sustaining
you'd
a
need
house share or whatever.
you'd have to have both partners at work as well. It was really interesting when I thought about, God, it really isn't that long, and we're talking about the lifespan of one TV series charting such a huge sociological difference. You know, the days of a male going out and working and supporting a family are pretty much done.
The cost of living's gone up, but wages have gone
Yeah,
down. I'm not an economist,
yeah.
by the way, so there's probably way more complex things going on that I can conceive.
But
But
it's roughly that, though, isn't it? I
yeah,
mean, it
and
is that.
it's the success of capitalism too, because capitalism is about making more things necessary to buy, so people who sell those things get rich, making those things more expensive, so people who sell those things get rich, and making labor cheap. So
Yeah,
when you make money, you make more profit, and it's really weird. I'm always amazed at how many people are invested in capitalism, bearing in mind it ultimately benefits so few. And I'm not suggesting that like we just like all we do the exact opposite, but we don't. I'm just amazed at the way we don't interrogate how we willingly
yeah.
kind of support people who just want to exploit. Like, I don't, this is probably a small thing, tiny thing. I do not shop at Amazon anymore. I just don't do it. I just
I
can't
am
bring myself to do it.
I am so impressed with your fortitude because I am the most. hypocritical because I rail against Jeff Bezos and I rail against Amazon as being the ultimate kind of corporation. Um, and yet it is very convenient.
Well,
It's very
I've
convenient.
always said that Amazon have such amazing customer service. Anything. I remember I had an original Kindle, and for some reason it just broke. You can't take the batteries out of
Mm,
them, as you can't with lots of electronics these days. So one
yeah.
day it just kind of it needed a hard reboot. It needed the battery taken out of it and put back into it again. But obviously you can't do that. They just sent me a new
Mm,
one. And I just remember
yeah.
thinking, wow, you just sent me a whole brand new Kindle. Like that's how, and just because I can't even remember if it was in the guarantee but it was a gift. But anyway, what I'm saying is their customer service is amazing. So they make it so your life is more inconvenient without
Well,
them.
the sort of give me convenience or give me death. People will override any kind of ethics. I mean, I think about it all the time when for convenience. I think about it when I'm like, if I order a pizza and it's raining and I know how dangerous it is for someone to be on a bike and delivering all these little things, so I'm like, oh fuck it anyway. Like, they know the risks. Like I, and I know the concept of Amazon's model, the way it treats its workers is so reprehensible that, I mean, I knew the same when I used to go to Weatherspoons for like curry club on a Thursday. I knew it was crap and I knew it, but it was so cheap and I didn't have the money and I'd be like, okay, well, this is,
It meets a need, yeah. I don't think it's
yeah.
about shame. Like, I don't want to Amazon shame you. Like, lots of people use Amazon. There's no, but what I would say is that it's a bit like, yes, it is really convenient having one place to buy stuff from, and it just gets delivered, and they have
Mm.
really good customer service, all this kind of stuff. But once you get out of it, it's no more convenient than an eBay seller or Etsy, or there's a new independent bookshop. It's called bookstore.info or something. But
Yes.
they connect. You order books and they send you books from the nearest independent bookstore that's near you. So stuff like that. But what that takes is work. You have to labor finding alternatives. But that's the only inconvenient thing. The actual kind of logistical
But
challenge of
for me,
searching for a
it's that,
product and buying it, that is still the same. But it's just you've got to go through the labor of finding that alternative.
but that's it. That's the laziness that I've begun to achieve. It's like, which comedian used to do that whole, the whole bit about, our attention spans and our patience has just gone.
Well, it's
And it
so funny.
went,
I can't remember because of our attention spans. It's like
yeah,
it's just gone.
and then saying that, we all found ourselves standing in front of a microwave going, come on, come on, come on, and stopping that microwave like 10 seconds before it was about to finish because you could not wait. And it's that level of, you give someone convenience and they will always want it and they'll want more. Like, I remember ordering something from Amazon now, which meant that I ordered it in the morning and it turned up in the afternoon, and I was like, okay, this is the future I want.
Do you try to do now you acknowledge this? Do you try to do anything to make yourself a more patient person?
I think, do you know what? I probably don't, and that's terrible. I am. I'm very much about forward planning, but that's a
Oh, I love a
work
list.
thing.
Yeah,
Oh
I
my
forward
god.
plan. I love a list. I
Oh,
can't exist without several lists actually.
there's a friend of mine that I go on holiday with, and we're both in the entertainment world, and we both we all create these interactive spreadsheets, and our other friends are like, "What is this?" And we're
Okay,
like,
stop
"This is
here.
good."
Interactive spreadsheets. You've got me. Talk me through the
Right.
spreadsheet.
Well, so basically, it's just like a shared Google Doc, but you update it both in real time, and then you're saying, "Okay, this is what you've got to bring. This is what you've got to," and everyone else is like, "Oh, it's like homework for them," but we're really enjoying it.
I believe wholly in the fact that when it comes to holidays, you can only holiday with someone who's exactly like you.
That's so
Don't go
true.
on holiday with anyone who has even the smallest contradiction to your personality. It's not going to work. I'll tell you, you'll come back from that holiday enemies.
Do you know what? It's hard enough to go on holiday with. Actually, me and this group really do enjoy our holidays because there was, I suppose, there were four of us, and it was enough to say that there was always going to be one person who was in the same frame of mind as you. So,
Right.
like, if you wanted to, like one day, one of us was just like, and it wasn't me, surprisingly, it was just like, I'm staying in bed till 2. Like we were like, yep, fair enough, do your thing. But others of us were awake, and it just, I absolutely, I used to feel so guilty when I'd be on holiday, and my friends would be like, "Oh Jesus, you're not up yet. It's like 11 o'clock in the morning, and we've gone and done this, and we did that." And I'm like, I'm on holiday.
Oh no, I'm a doer. I mean, don't get me. I think if I go on holiday to stay in bed till 11 or midday, it's a specific. There's nothing to do in that place other than stay in your hotel or the resort or whatever. But generally speaking, my holidays are about getting out of bed, yamming the breakfast, and getting the hell out.
Oh yeah. Oh, listen, I've been known to get up, get the free breakfast, go back to bed. That's because it's not that I don't think there's anything to do. It's just that I love bed and I love sleep. I love it so much that it needs to be factored into my holiday a
Yeah.
lot.
I mean, I think we could still go on holiday together because of the open top bus
Yeah.
thing, which I adore as
Yeah.
well.
Well, I'd be willing to get up early on the first day to do that.
Yeah,
And
okay.
then I'd sleep easy knowing that I knew where I was going to go for the rest of the day.
It's funny, I don't think you can be 50-50 about getting out of bed early on holidays. Some people do it and some people don't. But there's very rarely, oh, on Monday I'll lie in and on Tuesday I won't. The only, what I would say is that if I have a horrendous night of drinking, then the next day I'm staying in bed.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
rarely do. I mean, I rarely do that these days. I went through my 20s and 30s just drinking a lot,
yeah.
and through my kind of mid 30s to now, we've got all this booze in our house and we just don't drink it. It's just sitting here.
But is that not also having children? That does make a difference because
Yeah, but it was this
I would have
predates
thought.
the kids.
Oh, I mean, God, I was a terrible boozer in my 30s. It just, because I'd spent my 20s in long-term relationships back to back. So
Oh
the
dear.
whole decade. And so all my university years, everything was always in these very stable relationship. But it also meant I didn't really go out as much as other people, and I didn't do as much drinking. But come my 30s, my God,
You
I
made
made
up for
up.
lost time.
Absolutely. And then I think in my early 40s, I definitely was still drinking. And I think something about this whole pandemic has actually, God, it sounds like I'm saying there's something good about it, and there's nothing good about it, but it has actually made me look and go, well, when you are able to go out again, is that really what you want? Because I've really enjoyed not having hangovers, like really enjoyed it.
Oh god, I hate you've hit the nail on the head. Hangovers were absolutely the worst aspect of drinking, and they got worse as I got older. They
Oh my
just
God, yeah.
they just got worse and worse. I used to just feel like I'd been run over every
Well,
morning after
and
a night out.
yeah, absolutely. And I'd be like flatlining through a hangover, but then I knew that the next day I was still going to, I entered the realm of the 2-day hangover. And now I'm a lot more in tune with my body and my mind. I would say that I've got a bit more of a, a kind of mind body connection now. I'm more aware. And I also know that mentally, 2 days after a drinking session, I'm still not on form. I'm still a bit slower, maybe a little bit more moody. Yeah, it's quite palpable. Um, and now I'm just sort of aware that if I have got something important coming up, I need to just lay off the booze for quite some time beforehand.
Is there anything you miss about drinking? Like drinking a lot and going out and living that life?
Um, the ability to just talk to new people. I used to suffer. I mean, I still do to a bit, but like I think, God, I think most people that work in comedy, ironically, have some kind of social anxiety. I don't know why that seems to go hand in hand, but it does. And I think that willingness to do anything to not feel social anxiety, it can involve drinking, or it can involve having jokes that you can crack, a sort of personality that sort of takes you through that, or seemingly takes you through that. Um, so yeah, I do. I used to meet a lot of people. I mean, I'd never remember them, but I'd meet a lot of people, and I think that's a lot more difficult when you when you are more inhibited and you just kind of sit with your pals and you're not having the same kind of. I think maybe that's a youth thing as well, though. When you're young, you've got hundreds of friends, like, or at least a fair amount, and as you get older, it narrows down more and more. I was just thinking the other day, when was the last time I went to a restaurant with friends, and I can't even remember.
You didn't even eat out to help out, Becky? Come on.
Do you know
How
what?
could you? Not very patriotic of you, is it?
I know, and what a terrible move that was of mine to not.
I went out with my 2-year-old. We had like Pizza Express lunches most days because there's a Pizza Express on not
Yeah,
far from us. So I was like, because I love dough balls, but I don't like paying for them because they're just like bread.
yeah, I
So
don't.
when Eat Out to
It's
Help Out, I was like,
it's flour
we're
and
eating dough
water.
balls every day. Exactly. And they charged like £7 for them. Even £3.50 was too much. But I thought I might as well push the boat out. Even though, I mean, that's the kind of thing I ethically should not have done, because Eat Out to Help Out, it was a disaster as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, I mean, it was so ill conceived on so many different levels, and actually, loads of experts at the time were going, "This is a really bad idea. This is a really bad idea." Um,
Especially when it was like Eat Out to Help Out because of Wagamama's. It's like, who cares? Like, Wagamama's food is shit.
yeah, well, oh,
It's like
thank you
just
for
it.
saying that. I get a load of stick from people when they say that Wagamama's is crap. I
Wagamama's is
hate it.
bland. I'll tell you something, man. Go and eat some fish fingers. That's Wagamama's. They take their food tastes like fish fingers,
It's
all of
so,
it.
and also the experience of sitting at Wagamama's. It's like sitting in a school canteen.
Oh, it's prison, mate. It's just.
Yeah. And then you can't hear well, this is me and my deafness, but I can't hear the person in front of me because of the person next to me yammering on. And yeah, it's a deeply unsatisfactory experience for me. Like,
Oh, absolutely. Their food is bland, bland, bland. The only good thing about Wagamama's is that you used to get unlimited green tea from memory. I
oh yeah,
think you used to get like green tea or jasmine tea unlimited. So that bottomless green tea, which is like fine, but you can get, green tea is really cheap.
yeah,
I've got bottomless green tea in my yard. So yeah, horror. And generally speaking, Pan Asian restaurants, go to a specific one. Anytime if I see a Pan African restaurant, I'm like, no, you're
no.
not going to give me Ethiopian food and Ghanaian food. That
Well,
can't,
that's
because
it
you're going to
exactly.
do it all badly rather than one thing well. So yeah, I've. Oh, actually, have you heard of the hare and tortoise?
I haven't, no.
There's about 3 or 4 of them in London. There's one in sort of the Brunswick Centre in King's Cross, and I think there's one in West London. That's a good pan Asian restaurant. I take it back. They do, and what they do is they take dishes from like certain places like Malaysia, Japan, and I think they just specialize in that individual dish. Does that make sense? So rather than
Yeah,
saying,
that's
"Oh, we
right.
do
Yeah,
Chinese food really well" or Vietnamese food really well, they'll just take a dish. Their Malaysian curry, they do a Malaysian chicken curry, which I don't eat it anymore because I don't eat chicken.
yeah.
But when I used to go there a lot, I don't know, I'm going into this detail, but I don't even know if Hare and Tortoise still exists, actually. I've not been there for ages.
There used to
Um,
be. I can't remember. There was like I remember there was a pub in the countryside in Kent that had this amazing Thai chef. Like just randomly, they had this amazing Thai chef. I remember thinking that I just
that
remember
sounds
thinking
like a
that's so
great
cool.
sitcom. I don't know.
No,
It sounds like a great,
but
I
it's
don't know why, I just think that'd be a good, like Chef of Lenny Henry, but with this Thai chef.
yeah. But I love the idea that this is a probably quite a. It was really country town in Kent, so it was probably quite a white area. But the way we as British people have embraced food of the world, I feel quite proud of. I feel like we
We had to,
are.
because our food's really bad. Like, if we
Well,
didn't, like, we'd be stuck with sausages and mash. So it was like there was a vacuum waiting to be filled with food. Like,
absolutely.
we really
Well,
need
actually,
it.
I just read an article about how Chinese restaurants and takeaways are kind of dying out because people aren't. There's such a plethora of choice and other cuisines. People are bored with um, Chinese and less so, but still being affected is the good old Indian restaurant. Apparently, it's not surviving as well,
This breaks my
which
heart, but also I
yeah.
live in an area of North London where you cannot buy a takeaway because it's so bad. Like, what has happened is restaurateurs in certain areas like mine, and I'm in Enfield, have
Mm.
realised they can pass off any old shit as authentic.
Yes,
So
there is.
I'm not a takeaway person, but my partner is. So when we moved in together, we started getting takeaways, and I'm really not a takeaway person. But then I realised takeaways come in containers, and I love a container. So the the upside of getting a
Do
take.
you wash yours and use yours?
Yeah, my
Yeah, me
freezer's full
too.
of containers, like, of my
Oh my god.
leftovers, and the fridge is full of leftovers, so that's how I tolerate this takeaway business. Like, "Okay, we're getting a takeaway, I don't like it, it's overpriced, however, I'm getting a container." Anyway, I'm yet to have a decent takeaway in this part of London, and we've tried Turkish, we've tried, and this is a Turkish area, we've tried Chinese, we've tried Indian, and it's all been, like, so it got to the point where the last time we went to Chinese, my partner went to the person, look, yeah, like, we like it a bit spicy. You know what I mean? Like, could you just season the food really well? And it was like 6 out of 10. And we had to ask for that. So
What at least I mean that's it's awful around here, but yet I am still a massive fan of the takeaway. And I remember at one point while I was working a lot, so that was actually last year, and I was working so relentlessly on the Funny Women Awards, and I was at home and I just wasn't even going out to shop, and I was just like getting loads of takeaways. And one day I opened the door and the delivery driver was there, and he was like, "Oh, hey, how are you?" And I'm like, "Hi, going very well,
hi,
thank you."
Becky. I haven't seen you in a
Yeah, I know,
while.
no, literally. And I was like, and he goes, "Do you not remember me?" And I was like, "Oh," I said, "No, but do you deliver, like, are you with Just Eat and Deliveroo as well?" This was an Uber Eats guy, and he was like, "No." I was like, and I just realized that I mean, obviously there must have been a few drunken episodes where I couldn't remember calling like deliveries, but it was a really bad habit. I got 2 Christmas cards last year from 2 different takeaways.
Oh, it's a bit like Joey from Friends having slept with every woman in New York. It's like, oh, I've had all the delivery drivers in London come to my house.
Literally. And these were handwritten Christmas cards.
That's hilarious. Well, you know something. I take back about the whole eat out to help out thing. You are putting money back into the economy,
I am eating
regardless.
in to help
You're doing it
out.
without the incentive as well. You're just getting on with it. So
Oh,
that's a good thing. And on that note, I'd say I regret immensely that you can't come to my house to eat out, because normally people come to my house to record these
yeah.
podcasts and I just fry bare plantain. I just fry plantain, put on a coffee, and we chat. So
And I'm really fussy about plantain as well
I'm fussy too.
because
Tell me specifically how you would like it made.
I do like it fried, and I like it fried in a type of butter that
Is
like
it ghee?
it. Yeah, would it? But also I've seen other people do it with clarified butter that's not just ghee. So like, yeah, I like that. And if there's any hint of flouriness, I'm out.
Oh, okay. So
I'm
it's got to
out.
be soft. It's got to be
Yeah,
a yellow with black spots, soft plantain. And
it's
how do
yeah,
you like it cut? Do you like discs, like little carrots? Do you like a
discs,
discs? Okay,
discs.
got
Yeah,
you. And in terms of
don't know
like
why.
brownness, what are we talking about? Crispy?
Well, mid crispy. It's like the same consistency as a good chip chop chip.
What I'm going to do is, when this is over, I'm going to give you a plantain voucher that you can claim. You can
Okay.
claim this voucher at any time. This voucher is yours. It's a virtual voucher, and you can get your plantain whenever you want. The only difference is you have to deliver yourself here. I'm not going to deliver it
I
to you. You have to deliver yourself. Get a little scooter. Um,
I would absolutely love that, and I'm going to make palauri again, so I'll bring
yes,
them
we
round.
haven't even
Yeah,
spoken. Right? Yes, mate. You bring. I'll bring the plantain. You bring the Palawi. This
yeah.
isn't the first time Palawi's been mentioned on this podcast.
You're kidding
No,
me.
no, no. So it's not the first time. So my friend Carmen Ali is from Trinidad, and her mum is from Trinidad, so it came up there as
Yeah.
well. So
Oh,
just for the benefit of the listener at home, you are Guyanese, or half Guyanese.
yeah.
Yes, as am I, which is why we're talking about Polari. Because people will be like, "What is that?"
What is
Um,
that? It has to be tried. It's so
it's really
good.
good, and I've had to stop making it because it's fried, and me and
Oh,
my partner just trying not to eat so much fried food because we're not going out at all, and we're not exercising. But it's really good. It's basically like a bhaji, but it's way nicer than a bhaji.
yeah, and it
Sorry to people who
doesn't
did.
have any pesky veg in it either. It's a bit
No,
like it's the Caribbean dough ball, basically. With
that's exactly what I say. I say it's a savoury donut. I tell when I'm trying to describe it to people, I'm like, a savoury donut made of chickpea flour, and it goes really well with like tamarind sauce, something that's kind
oh
of
yes.
sweet and bittery at the same time.
But then have you noticed that once you've done palauri, that oil is now just
Oh,
you can't use it for
it's literally it's
it's
it's like a Kardashian. It just changed the color. You know,
yeah,
it's just
bright
it's
yellow
just
and
yeah.
like
You can't use it. I think chickpea flour is a bit like flying fish. Like, it just kind of pollutes. it just makes the oil really dirty. And I will use oil about 3 or 4 times otherwise. Like I'm one of those people.
I'll use it in cooking. I'll use it though if I'm doing any curry recipes. I'll use the old Polauri
Oh yeah,
oil
you keep it
because
in
it's.
a little container. Yeah, but
Listen, what you are with takeaway containers, I am with glass jars.
oh,
I'm
okay.
I am obsessed. At one house, I came home one day and one of my flatmates had chucked out my jar collection. So upset.
Oh, that no, because it takes a long time to get through all that jam. You know,
Oh,
to start a jar collection
exactly.
again, that's really hard going. That's not good at all.
But I have this really, and I don't know whether it's the Guyanese, it's the Indian, it's the Scottish, but there's a lot of me that just doesn't want to throw things out.
Thrifty. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, you come from the top three thrifty nations in
I
the
know.
world.
I was born to be tight. Like
No,
that's
it's
the
thrifty. Okay, it's thrifty,
or a 50.
resourceful, and efficient. Okay, that's
And they'd
amazing.
asked me what I was waiting for. They were like, "Well, are you waiting for some kind of like, you know, Armageddon type
Like you
situation
raising
where?" And I was like,
glass.
"Yeah,
It's like,
we're good.
the aliens are allergic to
When
glass. Well, that's amazing. Look what we've got in our flat.
That's exactly it. Or like, when someone needs emergency canning of jam, I'm going to be there. I'm with it.
I will save a glass jar if it's got like an interesting lid. Is that like if it's got a nice kind
Yeah.
of if it looks a bit
Or
fancy.
what about if it's got like embossed writing on it
Yeah,
in
very tempted to
glass?
save that. Yeah, very tempted.
Oh,
I put my spices in a lot of them though.
yeah. I'll pickle things and bottle things in oil as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. A bit of sliced lemon that goes in a glass jar. So this is all very useful. Okay, somebody's getting a bit upset, so I think I have
Yes.
to. I think I have to succumb to his moaning. But Becky, you've been fantastic. I wish I could talk for another hour because we didn't cover Polari. We only just squeezed in the plantain chat, and I want to know more about your jars. But we'll have to do that when you next come with your plantain voucher.
I will do. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank
It's
you for
such a
keeping
nice
my
time.
company.
Oh, well, say hello to the little ones for me.
I'll give them little cuddles and I'll say hello. And one day you're going to meet them, which would be
I know
fantastic.
when they're all grown up.
Well, they won't be grown up because they'll be kids till they're like 30. So
Oh yeah, that's true actually, and
you still have to buy the Christmas
maybe even
presents.
yeah. Oh, on that
All
note,
right, on that. All right, we're done. We'll finish it. All right, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
see you soon. Bye, bye, bye.
Thank you to the wonderful and talented and fantastic and brilliant person that is Becky Singh. Thank you, Becky, for coming onto my podcast and for proving a fact that I think is indisputable. And that fact is people who hoard reusable containers are good people. That's the difference. Okay, that is the line that divides us all, whether we hoard reusable containers or we don't. So good on you for proving that. I completely believe that people who throw away perfectly good containers, they won't make it to the promised land. Absolutely not. You won't be joining us there, but we'll be there with our empty containers that we will use one day. I promise. Guys, that's the end of this episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you don't know, or you should know by now, my name's Athena Convenue. I'm a stand-up comedian, writer and podcaster. So come find me on Twitter, Instagram, or whatever it is you use. I think I still have I have a Snapchat that I started ages ago, but I never used it. But you can find me there if you really, really want to. If you like this podcast, do what you normally do a podcast that you like. Share them, like it, but comment or do whatever. But as always, you got to the end of this podcast. It is so appreciated. Thank you for listening, and we will catch up next time.